and relatively, considering the fact that we are relatively new in this sector, we want to officially thank our online viewers. Thank you for your consistency. I want to thank also the anchors and the MCR personnel. We, the anchors, wouldn't do our work proficiently without, or won't be seen without the aid of the MCRs. I want to thank you. Thank you for staying through. Thank you for staying through. And we hope that you continually stay with us. On to our topic for today, 2025 budget. Cut proposed 9.4 billion naira refreshment budget, SERAP tells Akpabio. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has called on Nigeria's Senate President, Mr. Gospel Akpabio, and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Tajuddin Abbas, to slash the proposed 9.4 billion naira refreshment budget for the presidency. SERAP argued that these excessive allocations should be reduced to address the country's growing deficit and reliance on borrowing. In a statement on its X page, the group said, "We urge the leaders of the National Assembly to demonstrate commitments to addressing Nigeria's debt crisis by reducing wasteful and unnecessary expenditure in the proposed 2024 budget. This will send a strong message about prioritizing the needs of Nigerians over lavish spending. The group's appeal seeks to ensure that public funds are used more judiciously, aiming to promote fiscal responsibility and help elevate Nigeria's financial strain." Recently, SERAP urged the Senate President to consider the human rights implication of the tax reform bills currently being discussed at the National Assembly. According to SERAP, any discussion and consideration of the tax reform bills must ensure full compliance with the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, and the country's international human rights obligations and commitments. SERAP noted that if properly aligned with human rights standards, the tax reform bills would enhance the ability of the federal, state, and local governments to fulfill their human rights obligations and adequately fund public services as essential for human rights. The organization lamented that some provisions of the tax bills lacked mechanisms for effective oversight and accountability as required by the rule of law in a democratic society, thereby increasing the risk of abuse of power or arbitrariness. So what's your thought on this?
On which of the
on the proposed motion by SERAP telling the House of Assembly to cut the proposed 9.4 billion naira allocation for feeding?
Well, SERAP is very much in order, and but the point is, will the senators, will the politicians listen to SERAP? SERAP has been on these issues for some time now, always calling. Sometimes, if not for SERAP, Nigerians may not even really know how bad certain situations are until SERAP draws our attention to it and then begins to make issues with these people. Now, we are in a critical time. This is a very critical time in our history. There are issues everywhere, especially with the economy, with things. They should be thinking of we're talking about cutting down cost of governance. And at this most critical time, last time the hue and cry was about how much these people spent on procuring vehicles expenditure.
Okay.
And now we're talking about 9.4 billion for entertainment. Come on, you and I know that this is not the time for these lawmakers to be talking about spending 9.4 billion naira on refreshment. However, let's put it this way. In a time where we will be calling for responsible, or we should be calling for fiscal responsibility. Now they are embarking on this kind of expenditure in the spirit of democracy, in the spirit of good representation. Because they would want to argue that 9.4 is not big, but it is so because it's lumped. We are. Considering where we are, 9.4 billion is huge. What are what makes up those items? Now let's not even go into the arena of, sometimes it's like last time we heard about budget padding.
Yeah.
I hope, allegedly though, I hope this is not also another case of maybe these items were mistakenly padded and put out there without somebody cross-checking properly. I just hope it's not that case. But beyond where people are beginning to learn to ask questions and make demands. So if these lawmakers truly are having town hall meetings with the people they ought to be representing, if they are having the kind of conversations they ought to be having, if they are in tune, or let me say if they are in touch, because they can be in touch and not be in tune, if they are in touch with reality, with the reality of how Nigerians are living, you cannot want to say you want to spend 9.4 billion naira of taxpayers' money, of Nigerian revenue, on refreshment. How important is this refreshment?
What would you suggest then? That they propose that they cut it down? So is it just cutting it down? Can't it be, when we're looking at the budget, we found out that agriculture is missing, SMEs missing?
We'll come to that, sir. You see, let's face that item now. Entertainment. Like I said, what constitutes this entertainment? What are the items on this list? Because you don't just pick a figure 9 point. What are the things? There are some things that you will even see on that list. You will not only be offended, you'll be angry. You find it insulting on the collective intelligence of Nigerians. Do you understand? Yeah. These people are representing the people. It's not just a group of, it shouldn't be done like it's just a group of individuals out there for themselves. You understand? There are some things you do, it's offensive to normal sensibilities. That's just what it is. So now it's not about, okay, let's say cut it down and then apply it somewhere else. Because it's not like you're going to remove from entertainment and add it to agriculture. No, that's not what it is. Let's look at those items. Now, SERAP is calling for discussions. SERAP is calling for conversations on this. So let's look at these items and let's see what it is. Some of the items, not just about cutting down, some of them should be removed in its entirety. Yes, it should be removed in its entirety. So that being said, you were saying something about the amount allocated to SMEs.
These sectors were missing.
Yes, these sectors were missing completely.
Yes,
it still means that the budget document is not complete, or somebody had an oversight. Like I said, because if these documents had been thoroughly gone through, we won't be at the point where we are now talking about entertainment 9.4 billion and agriculture is missing. What is supposed to drive cottage industries, SMEs is missing. And then we're saying we're about to present a budget that will drive Nigeria, move Nigeria to the next level.
Note, the budget has passed second reading. It's actually after having passed second reading, we are waiting till January when plenary will resume for this budget, meaning it's almost into implementation. This outcry, would it affect anything?
It should affect, because just that, I don't know, we have the kind of Senate we have, because by the time plenary resumes, remember last time when there was so much hue and cry about fuel subsidy, about hardship. What did the Senate president say? He said, let them strike if they want, we'll be here, we'll be eating. Last time he said, anywhere you see food, go in and eat. So basically he was making a caricature, I dare say. He made a caricature of the hue and cry of it. He made a caricature of the cry of Nigerians. So will this actually make any impact? Your guess is as good as mine. will it really make an impact? But we also will not say that because it will not make an impact, then people should not speak. People should speak, so that let it be noted that while they went about doing the wrong thing, there were those who spoke and their voices were not heard. There were those who spoke and they were shouted down. But it must be on record that people spoke.
Before now, you spoke about why we were discussing on. You talked about Dubai's intentionality, if I recall rightly, intentionality in carrying out its duties as a government for the people. What lessons do you think we could copy from them regarding these infrastructures? Like you said, we are blessed with these minerals, but we are not utilizing them to its full amount, like the profits. Meanwhile, in Dubai, they decide that instead of going out, we'll bring these things here. So starting from the bill, from this appropriation bill, how intentionally do you think the government could go in making we the masses understand that, okay, we aren't just feeding here for our stomach infrastructure per se, but we are also putting the needs of Nigerians into consideration?
Okay, to this, what I will say is this. You see, what I've observed, what I've noticed in Nigeria is that we just play politics with everything. We just play politics with everything. And as such, we don't even understand that even in this politics we play, that there is even the politics of development. Okay. Like if you see what is happening in the Middle East, look at the Gulf region compared to what is happening in the West, you see that there is a way these people went about their own development. Like you mentioned Dubai, that's why I'm going to mention the Gulf region now. You see that these people came to a point and they decided to build up their own place in such a way that you don't need to travel out of the MENA region to the West to get anything. In fact, those of them in the Gulf region will tell you that Dubai is our San Francisco. They will tell you that Dubai is our Paris, that Dubai is our Miami. Because basically, whatever it is you want to go get, whatever kind of vacation you want to go get in the US, in France, whatever vacation you want to go get in those areas, you can find it in their place. So, based on this intentionality, they develop every aspect of their being. Every aspect of their existence. So you see, our people, we've not even started playing policies of development yet.
Okay.
We don't understand. We don't do development. Now, you have somebody in power, whether it is River State, whether it's at the federal level. If he comes up with a good policy, no matter how good it is, you see people attack it, want to bring it down because it's of the opposition. Now he has a bad policy that will be inimical to development. People will not speak up because he's their party member. So when you say this thing will not be good for Nigeria in the final analysis, people get angry, they get offended, they attack it because they feel you are about to pull their party man down. And that is the problem. That has been the bane of our problem. And that has been the bane of our development. And that is what has also often led to policy somersaults as we know it in Nigeria. Okay? So that's what has affected us. So if only we can be a little more intentional and always look at the totality of what affects us, we cannot be in a place where we are saying the country is in a mess and suffering, and some people will now allocate 9.4 billion for refreshment or entertainment.
Do you think, in your opinion, that the budget, the 2025 budget, was or is overambitious?
I've heard that in several quarters, and to a very large extent, yes. Why? Because the budget has been drawn, and then you use with an exchange rate of 1 naira to $1,400. right?
Proposal from 1,700 to 1,005 per dollar.
Yeah, 1,005 naira per dollar.
Yes.
Okay, and naira has been rallying between 16, 17,
Currently
18.
17, yes.
Currently 17, yes. But it's been rallying around that period. So I really would have loved to understand the mindsets. I would have really loved to understand the mindset, the idea behind pegging it at that figure, knowing that this is where it's been rallying. Unless there is a magic, unless there is something that the government has in mind, there is something they intend to do. Probably they believe that by the time they finally implement it, dollar will be hitting maybe 1,003 or 1,002. Maybe that's what they have in mind. But then I would have also believed them to be correct if in that budget there is a deliberate plan to work on infrastructure.
Okay.
Because the infrastructural budget is still not considering the dollar rate.
Okay.
The figure they allotted to infrastructure, I don't see us achieving this dollar benchmark. Now, I don't see production increasing. Okay? I don't see any deliberate plan to improve the power situation. SME is clearly missing. Agriculture is missing, which means import will not improve. Export, sorry, will not improve. Production capacity will not improve. So I wonder how, unless it's just maybe there is a plan they have which we don't know yet. Okay. Maybe it's a secret that they intend to shock us with, so that we will not have our wow moment. Wow, they knew what they were doing after all. Okay. Maybe, just maybe. But besides that, looking at what is on ground, what is on the table, and what we have on record, I would just expect them. I'm hoping for a miracle. Really.
Hoping for a miracle.
Yes.
That's why that's why the budget was tagged the budget of restoration. So we anticipate to see what will be restored.
You know, it's very funny. If you say it's budget of restoration, there should be some elements.
Okay.
There should be some ingredients that you would look at and say, okay, these things will truly engender, restoration. These ingredients will truly spark off a kind of industrial revolution,
okay,
or agricultural revolution, or things. I don't know. Maybe there are things that they are yet that will come up that maybe they've hidden it under other aspects of the budget that we don't know about. Maybe. But for SME to be missing, agric is missing, it means government is not ready to spend, like you said, according to you. I've not really read the full budget to identify for myself if truly agric is missing.
You would.
Yes, So but for agric to be missing and SME is missing, and we are saying is a budget of restoration, well, maybe there's an angle from which we want to pursue this restoration.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe there's an angle.
There's an angle.
Yes.
All right, moving on to the next story on tax reforms. Kano targets 80 billion naira revenue in 2025. Kano state government under the leadership of Kano State government, under the leadership of Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf, will commence the prosecution of all tax defaulters in 2025 as part of its major reforms in tax administration. This was contained in a statement issued by the governor's spokesperson, Sanusi Bature Dawakin Tofa, in Kaduna. According to the statement, Dr. Zaid Abubakar, the executive chairman of Kano State Internal Revenue Service, made the disclosure during a presentation to the governor at the ongoing high-level retreat for top government officials. Dr. Zaid Abubakar clarified that the reform is not aimed at increasing taxes, but at improving the efficiency of tax collection and ensuring compliance with tax regulations. The statement further noted that Kano State has projected the generation of over 20 billion naira in the revenue each quarter of 2025. It is worth recalling that Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf relieved the immediate past chairman of the Revenue Service and appointed a new management structure. This decision has significantly improved the agency's performance in the third and fourth quarters of 2024. To ensure effective reforms in revenue generation, the governor will commission a new model for tax collection. This model is expected to substantially increase revenue generation for the 2025 fiscal year, enabling the administration to fulfill its campaign promises across the various critical sectors of development. This is coming from Kano State, and to you, do you feel this is a welcome development that shouldn't just end with Kano State, but should spread across to other states?
Yes, if they've increased their tax projections, and one critical thing from what you've just read is that they have a new template they want to put in place to ensure they get more people on board, and then to also ensure they get more people to pay taxes and be able to catch defaulters. That's nice. It's very good. It's very good. But you see, and if they do that, like from the news beat you've just read, that from this they are hoping they will get more revenue to enable them fulfill their campaign promises. Yes, it's good. But I don't know if they've really looked at the informal sector.
Informal sector?
Yes. I don't know if they've really looked at the informal sector. And like they said, that they have their plans in place. So maybe those are some of the things they are going to do. Because I don't know how you're going to tax people you cannot identify.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know how you're going to tax people you cannot identify. Unless maybe their dragnet is only on the corporate bodies. Maybe they are looking at just the corporate bodies alone, and established businesses alone. Maybe that's all they are just looking at. But it will also be very good now that they are talking tax and tax regime and all of the strategy. Kano State should also look at, like we're discussing before the show, and I was telling you what the African Growth Nexus Consult, one of the things we do and what we believe in. One of the things they should also do, because I think Kano is part of the people we're going to be meeting with soon. Okay. Yes, because this formalization of the informal sector, we have a program called RAPA. Okay. Yes, so that when the informal sector is not accounted for, even though taxation starts from a certain threshold, but of course there are a lot of people within the informal sector that are not being taxed.
Would you throw more light on the informal sector for our audience so we get to understand?
Yeah, when we talk of the informal sector, there are people who own very large farms. Okay. They are not registered, they are not accounted for, and they make a lot of money. You might think it's just a subsistence farm, but the man has hectares of pineapple farm. He rakes in hundreds of millions annually. There are people who have cattle. They have cattle farms. Okay. Worth 500 million. They make over 300, 500 million annually. Okay. And they are not taxed because there is no record of them anywhere. Okay. So yes, if the state governments, like what Kano State has done, of course I know a lot of states, River State, I'm sure River State, their projection is more than this. Okay. Okay. Yeah. But if all the states will put this in, and it's much in, because this formalization I'm talking about is much in line with what Senator Ned Nwoko was, the bill he's pushing for recently. Okay. So if they find a way to formalize the informal sector such that there's record, or every taxable adult is identified. Okay. Right? Yes. Every taxable adult is identified, and then it also becomes easy not just to tax them. Okay. So that you can also have other key performance index for the state. You can now plan for how to also reach out to these people effectively and efficiently.
Okay.
Because one of the problems we have in this country is record.
Records, okay.
Record. And because we don't have this record, it's difficult to plan, it's difficult to reach out, it's difficult to do so many things. If we had proper records, these people that died during the stampede, they wouldn't have died.
Okay.
Why? Because if you want to do arms, you want to do charity, there should be an organization or agency where you just go and give this. I want to give this number of rice to this amount of indigent people. You just put it there, and that ministry handles it. I know corruption. People will say when you give it to this ministry, the wives of the officers will carry it, just like it was reported with the Nigerian customs that rice seized that Buhari, the former president, said they should give out to poor people, that the rice ended up in the shops of wives of custom officers.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, so they said. It was in the news. All right, allegedly, okay. Yes. So, but for everything that is subject to abuse, there are still measures you put in place.
Okay.
All right. So, this is a laudable step for the Kano State government. Is a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that if they just add, if the government will support the tax office by finding a way to document and formalize the informal sector, it will make it a lot more easier for them to achieve their purpose.
Okay.
Yes, it will make it a lot more easier for them to achieve their purpose. Tax is not easy. Tax drive is not easy. It's always very easy for us to make declarations, make statements, based on what we copy from different places. You just think you can just go somewhere, copy one template and just come and implement it. But we are a unique people. We are unique people, and the way our system is structured, we do not have the records are not there per se. So I think for them to really succeed in this, apart from taxing the companies, the banks, and every other people they want to tax, they need proper record of taxable adults. And that means that if they will adopt this formalization of the informal sector project, and they do it, and you get proper record of every taxable adult, it becomes a lot easier. Of course, when you do that with the incentives that goes with it, people will willingly pay tax.
Incentives.
Yes.
Do you mind throwing light on what incentives like?
Yes, there are incentives that goes with being formalized. I mean, when government knows that you exist.
Okay.
Part of the incentive is if government wants to give grants or loan to your sector, it becomes easy to access.
Okay.
If there is health benefit, maybe health insurance, it becomes easy to make those things accessible to those people. Because right now, the health insurance that exists in Nigeria is only for civil servants. If you're not working in the formalized sector, you're not a part of it. Basically, every Nigerian that is not functioning in the formalized sector is a ghost. That's what it is. So if they can find a way to formalize the informal sector, if they can adopt that program, then it becomes a lot easy, not just for tax purposes alone, but for development.
Yes. I would love to cut you short here, and thank you for joining us today on Atn Business. Thank you. It's a pleasure having you.
It's
Mr.
my pleasure as well.
Elumenze, thank you for coming, and we hope to see you next on our program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, we'll look at the stock market, foreign exchange market, and what the exchange rate is today. Do not go away.
From the lands across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now on to the stock markets, foreign exchange market, and exchange rates. On the foreign exchange rates, rupee declined slightly, tracking weaker yuan. Indian rupee weakened on Monday, pressured by a decline in the offshore Chinese yuan and month-end importer dollar bids. While dollar rupee forward premiums nudged higher, the rupee was at 85.0575 against the US dollar as of 10 a.m. IST, down from its close of 85.0150 in the previous session. The offshore Chinese yuan fell 0.2% to 7.30 as China's bond yields dropped in tandem with softer US yields, with Chinese 10-year bond declining to a reclined low before stabilizing. Traders expect the rupee to hold a gradual depreciation bias in the near term, with interventions by the Reserve Bank of India likely to continue damping volatility. While frequent central bank interventions have helped the rupee be the least volatile among major Asian pairs, they have also weighed on India's foreign exchange reserves, which declined to a near 6-month low of $652.87 billion as of December 13. If you see some inflows, it may dip towards 84.90, but other than that, the upward bias should hold, a trader at a private bank said. Asian currencies were trading mixed, while the dollar index was little changed at 107.7. The index had declined 0.5% on Friday following softer than expected US inflation data that helped assuage concerns about limited policy easing by the Federal Reserve next year. Traders are now pricing in 38 basis points of rate cuts by the Federal Reserve over 2025, up from about 35 basis points priced in before the data was released. Meanwhile, dollar rupee forward premiums rose, with the 1-year implied yield up 2 basis points at 2.24%, while the 1-month forward premiums rose to 20 paisa, aided by an elevated overnight swap rate. Cash dollar inflows related to ongoing initial public offerings (IPO) lifted the swap rate alongside tightness in INR liquidity, traders said. And onto the stock market, stocks rally as investors cheer US inflation relief. Global shares were boosted on Monday by US inflation reading, offering some hope for further policy easing next year, along with relief that Washington had adverted a government shutdown. After a recent central bank decisions bonanza, this week only has the minutes of a few of those meetings. Why there are no Federal Reserve speeches and US data is secondary. The main market themes remain largely the same, with the dollar underpinned by a relatively strong economy and higher bonds yields, which in turn is a burden for commodities and gold. And on to European markets have come under fire in the past weeks as investors have doubled down on their holdings of US equity and dollar. The Stoxx 600, which was 0.15% lower, is heading for a 4% fall this quarter, its worst quarterly performance in about 2.5 years, compared with 3% gain in the S&P 500. The euro has hit 2-year lows in recent weeks and is also heading for its weakest quarterly performance against the dollar since the second quarter of 2022, down 6.5%. And on to US markets, how investments may fare during Trump 2.0. Investments are preparing for a swath of changes in 2025, from tariffs and the regulation of tax policy that will ripple through markets as President-elect Donald Trump returns to the White House, putting the focus on whether the US economy can continue to outperform. The changing of the guard in Washington has big implications for how stocks, bonds and currencies fare in the new year and may require investors to rejig portfolios. Forecasts call for another buoyant year for stocks, the dollar to maintain its recent strength over the coming months and treasury yields to match higher. Investors largely expect US economic exceptionalism to persist in the new year as robust consumer spending and resilient labor markets put US growth on a firmer footing than that of many of its developed market peers. And on to European markets, Eurozone bond yields edge up to 1 month high. Eurozone bonds yields ticked up to their highest level in around a month on Monday before dipping slightly as investors continue to try to gauge the outlook for central bank rate cuts in 2025. The Federal Reserve last week put upward pressure on US government bond yields, which sets the tone for other markets around the world, when policymakers said they now expect to cut rates twice in 2025, down from a previous estimate of 4 cuts. Germany's 10-year bond yield, the benchmark for the Eurozone, rose to 2.32 on Monday, around the highest level since November 22. It was last up 1.6 basis points at 2.302%. Yields move inversely to prices. Trading volumes were lower due to traders being off over the holiday season, potentially accelerating price moves. European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde said the Eurozone was getting very close to reaching the central bank's medium-term inflation goal, according to an interview published by the Financial Times on Monday. And on to foreign exchange, sterling struggles to regain steam against dollar. Sterling looked lackluster against the dollar on Monday as a survey reported a decline in domestic UK business confidence, and traders digested a recent Federal Reserve induced rally in the greenback. British business confidence fell to its lowest level of 2024 in December, although employers were a bit more optimistic about the wider economy, according to a survey published on Monday. GDP figures on Monday also show that the British economy flatlined in the third quarter of the year, revised down from an earlier estimate of 0.1% growth. Our hunch is that 2025 will be a better year for the economy than 2024. But more recent data suggests the economy doesn't have much momentum as the year comes to a close, said Paul Dales, chief UK economist at consultancy Capital Economics in the North. On Friday, the pound touched a 1-month low of $1.247 before it turned direction and closed the day 0.5% higher versus the greenback after a busy week of central bank action. This is where we wrap it up on this episode of Atn Business on Atlantic Television Network. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. You can connect with us on all our Atn socials on Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, on Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. I am Favor Michael Chikwesiri. Thank you for watching.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.